Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. It is Tuesday, October 11th. I'm Frank Granito. This is Donald Eng, and we are back from the long weekend, Don. Hope you had as much fun as I did.
Oh, I sat through a 5-hour cheerleading competition, and then I stood in a freezing drizzle for about 3 more hours on Sunday. I can't tell you how much fun I had.
I feel like I should apologize for that freezing drizzle because I said it was just going to be a light on and off shower in the morning and clear out by 10 o'clock. I went down to the Bronx to play golf, stood through the pouring rain for the back nine. It was not as fun as advertised.
No, well, you know, when you talk about the weather, you're actually trying to predict the future. So we expect a few hiccups here and there.
But we really did have, despite there not being any football over the weekend, with the exception of one game, and we'll get to that. It was a pretty quiet weekend. A bunch of soccer games. We had some breaking news come out of Darien, but Staples at NFA. Everything's going to be okay. The records are coming back 5-0. They took one on the chin.
They really did, and certainly they were dealing with some injuries, but that really wasn't the full story there. We'll talk about that in the second block, but definitely that was a shock to me, and I think a lot of people are there. NFA opened some eyes there with a big win.
We've got a big week coming up now. We'll have girls soccer this afternoon from St. Joe's. They host the West Hill Vikings. We've got volleyball on Thursday. We'll get our first look at the McMahon Senators, and a pretty big football weekend coming up, Don. You've got 5 teams in the conference now at 3-1. 4 of those teams will be playing against each other in 2 games. Ridgefield's got to go to Trinity. There are some interesting games, and this could be separation Saturday in the conference.
Yeah, you have the 3-1 teams that are now. If you get to 4-1, you're in pretty good shape for a playoff run. If you fall to 3-2, you've really got to run the table and then get some help. And then let's not forget about Trinity Catholic. They are 1-3, playing 3-1 Ridgefield. They're 1-3, but the Crusaders certainly are good enough to really play spoiler for a lot of these teams down the stretch.
There's no FCAC championship this year, so everyone is really just battling for positioning in the state playoffs. And if you look at Class LL, you've got 6 teams from the FCAC who are really in the hunt, in the thick of it, with a chance to qualify. More than likely, 4 of them are going to be left out. A lot of these teams have to play each other still, and 2 losses probably isn't going to be good enough to get you in.
Right, and the way you have to look at it, if you're Staples or Greenwich or some of those other teams there in Class LL that are battling for a spot, you essentially have to look at it as week 10, week 11, or week 10 in the FCAC is essentially a play-in game for the playoffs. I mean that's how you have to look at it. It's a tough road, but you do have your destiny in your own hands.
We'll have plenty more football in the B block of this show, and we'll have all the other sports updates and standings for you when we get to the C block. But let's start with our Athlete of the Week winners for week number 3, presented by Runner's Roost. Let's start with the females. It was Lindsay Groves of the Wilton girls soccer team. Lindsay picked up 891 votes. She was the clear-cut winner this week, Don. She picked up over 500 votes more than Hannah Hogan from Trumbull Field Hockey, who came in second with 410 votes. And it was a Wilton kind of week for the Athlete of the Week.
It really was, because on the boys' side, the winner was Matt DeLisa of Wilton Football, 1,266 votes, a pretty close margin of victory. Kevin Ayabi of Greenwich Football, second place with 1,087. So congratulations to Matt and Lindsay.
And what a week Matt had. We got to see him in action back when we were at Fairfield Ludlow. The 3 touchdowns, but it's the way he led that offense. Lindsay Groves and the Wilton girls soccer team doing great things as well. Very cool to see 2 Warriors win at the same time. Congratulations to both of them again. Let's move on now to the Athletes of the Week presented by Runner Roost. Week 4 nominees, and for the females, we go over to Don.
Our first nominee is Bridget Malloy, Staples Field Hockey. She made 5 saves as the Wreckers shut out the Norwalk Bears 3-0 last Thursday. Staples scored once in the first half, then twice in the second half to nail down the victory. Staples is 9-0-1 on the season. Our next nominee is Chelsea Domond, West Hill girls soccer. She scored 1 goal in each half as the Vikings beat Stamford 3-0 for the city championship Saturday. West Hill also unbeaten at 8-0-2. Laura Sturm of New Canaan Field Hockey is your next nominee. She scored 2 goals to lead the Rams to a 3-1 victory over Fairfield Ludlow. New Canaan improved to 6-3-1 overall, 6-3 in the FCAC. Ludlow is 6-4 overall, 5-4 in conference. Amanda Beckwith, Norwalk Volleyball, your next nominee. 14 digs, 9 kills, 2 service points for the Bears in their 3-1 victory over Darien High School. And finally, Katie Leineken, Ridgefield Volleyball. The senior setter had 38 assists and 5 digs in Ridgefield's 3-0 sweep over Fairfield Ward. The day before, Leineken had 30 assists as the Tigers swept Massac 3-0.
What was most impressive about Katie Leineken, and it was so tough we got to see her in action, her and Caroline Colonel were standout players for the Tigers. Colonel was just all over the court, kill on kill on kill. But Leineken, 68 assists in 2 matches, was phenomenal and an easy choice. You look at Amanda Beckwith, the numbers don't really jump out at you, Don, but it's in a Norwalk win over Darien, which you don't hear very often in volleyball.
No, definitely leading the team to an upset like that. It's always going to be a team effort when Norwalk beats Darien at volleyball. But Beckwith definitely the standout performer. And as far as Leineken, when you have just an accurate setter, just in sync with a hitter, it's just it's really a lot of fun to watch. And just because you don't necessarily see it a lot, but or see it clearly, but a good setter in sync with a good hitter, and it's almost impossible to defend.
And a real good balance amongst the female athlete nominees. You've got 2 field hockey nominees, a girls soccer, and 2 volleyball. Again, we're up to 5 names. We were trying to keep it at 4. It's tough with the performances that are being turned in right now.
Yeah, it's tough for us. It's tough for the voters too. They have to pick someone to vote for.
Let's take a look at the Male Athlete of the Week nominees now, and we'll start with West Hill Boys Soccer's Aiden Chung Wilkes. Wilkes racked up 16 saves as the West Hill Vikings edged out Stanford 1-0 for the city championship on Friday. Oscar Funes scored in the 3rd minute, but Wilkes and the defense held it up the rest of the way, stealing the show. Again, 16 saves to clinch the Stanford City Championship for West Hill. Ziggy Hallgarten of the Staples High School soccer team. Ziggy had 6 saves for the Wreckers, who won a 2-1 match with Fairfield Ludlow. Hallgarten also shut out Brian McMahon 5-0 last week. Staples is now 6-2-3 on the season. William Brisman of Fairfield Ward Cross Country won the race this past week with a time of 15:30, allowing the Mustangs to defeat Greenwich, Darien, and New Canaan in the race held at Greenwich Point. Alejandro McLean of the Greenwich Boys soccer team is our final nominee. McLean, the senior forward, continued his rampage through opposing defenses this season by scoring twice for unbeaten Greenwich in their 4-2 win over Norwalk. 3 soccer players. Obviously, it'll most likely be a little soccer heavy, Don, without football this weekend. But some very, very deserving nominees here.
Oh, sure. Especially, you think your team scores a goal in the 3rd minute of a soccer game and you make it hold up the rest of the way. 16 saves is a huge amount. I mean, it's not like hockey where a goalie gets 30 saves in a game and it's kind of routine. 16 saves for a soccer goalkeeper, tremendous. And then also, cross country. You have all these kids on the race course. For one runner to just kind of pull away when you have 3 other schools competing. Great accomplishment. And really, all of these guys had great weeks. As you mentioned, so hard to get us down to 4. I don't envy the voters having to pick 1.
It was a lot of fun, again, getting to choose these weekly nominees. Our congratulations again to the Week 3 winners. If you want to vote for the Week 4 nominees, make sure you go to HAN.network and find our Athlete of the Week tab. Don and I are going to take a break here on Nutmeg Sports. When we get back, we'll have breakdown of that Staples NFA game, as well as some breaking news about Coach Rob Trefone out of Darien High School, right here on the HAN Network.
1, 2, 3, Abby! I want to find out how good I am. Yes, sir! If you relax, you get blown out. Let's get it done! Let's get it done!
What can you take advantage of right now?
Again, come on. I can push myself way beyond what you think.
Pressure technique. Bring it back.
Connecticut is coming back to hometown banking. To a partner that makes small businesses feel big. Where community comes first. Where high-tech tools go hand in hand with a human touch. Where you get the know-how only neighbors can deliver. Where saving time is important too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
At Mex on Main, Trumbull's very own Mexican grill, we're all about fresh, fast, and friendly service. Our Main Street restaurant offers the best in traditional and non-traditional Mexican dishes, with only the best ingredients, never frozen. From authentic burritos, fajitas, quesadillas, and salads, we have something on the menu for everyone in the family. And enjoy our open salsa bar, giving you more ways to customize your meal. Stop in for lunch or dinner at 6528 Main Street, Trumbull, or find out more at mexonmain.com.
When it comes to local entertainment, we've got it all.
From movies, local artists, etiquette, and more.
Watch HAN Arts and Leisure with me, Steve Coulter, and our Arts and Leisure editor, Sally Sanders, Mondays at 12:30, right here on the HAN Network.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in studio today. And we go now to Darien High School. Don, some breaking news coming out yesterday from the Stanford Advocate. Darien High School varsity football coach Rob Trefone was recently suspended for 2 weeks following an incident in which he struck the helmet of a student. As per the school's release, during the course of the varsity football game held at Darien High School on Saturday, October 1st, versus Norwich Free Academy, an incident occurred with Trefone. The Stanford Advocate reports a witness at the game, who chooses to remain anonymous, reported that in the second half of Darien's 45-6 win, a Darien lineman got into a verbal altercation with an NFA player. While the referees tried to separate the two players, they both continued to hurl insults at each other. The Advocate said the referees instructed that Trefone and the Darien coaching staff remove the player from the field, to which they obliged, the witness said. As the player walked up to an upset Trefone, the coach chewed him out and slapped him with an open hand on the side of the helmet, the witness said. Trefone's suspension lasts through this Saturday, October 15th, where Darien is scheduled to play against Brian McMahon at home on that day. Don, we've seen a lot of comments flowing in at the bottom of these articles now. There was even a letter that was produced on behalf of some of the recent captains from Darien. You have a little more on that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of comments on the stories, mostly supportive of Coach Trefone, including a letter to the editor from the captains of his last 3 teams. The letter reports, we are writing in support of our football coach, Rob Trefone. For many of us, he coached us from our DJFL, Darien Junior Football League days, through our years at Darien High School. We enjoyed great success on the field, but for Coach T, it was always about more than just winning championships. It goes on, he expected us to represent our school and our community properly and taught us by example. He was a leader, mentor, father figure, and friend. Coach T taught us more than just how to play football. He taught us the importance of hard work, discipline, dedication, and teamwork. We are all so proud of and loved our days as Darien High School football players, and we owe it all to Coach T. With much respect and appreciation, and it was signed the 2013 captains, Tommy Gasparino, Nick Lombardo, Miles Ritter, Jay Harrison, Alex Gunn, Silas Wiper. The 2014 captains, Will Hammernick, Tom Lochtenfeld, George Reed, Griffin Ross, and Jack Terrell. And the 2015 captains, Mark Ivanchik, Tim Graham, Hudson Hamill, Colin Minikus, Bobby Trefone, and Christian Trefone. So a tremendous show of support from the captains of his last 3 teams.
And the comments we've seen online have been very supportive too. They're from, we believe to be sources not connected with the program, but it just seems that it's an unfortunate situation that's fallen upon a beloved coach within Darien.
Right, and you can see how this kind of happens. It's kind of an emotional moment, and a kid is you're trying to kind of send a message to a kid that maybe is just a little bit out of it at the moment. An unfortunate incident, certainly to say the least.
And we'll keep an eye on that, but Coach Trifone expected to be out now through at least this weekend. Should be back on the sideline, though, when Darien gets set to move on and prepares to play Danbury on Friday, October 21st. Let's go back, though, now, Don. Let's take a look deeper into that NFA Staples matchup from last weekend. We had been talking a lot about Staples and almost counting our chickens before the eggs hatch, looking at that Darien Staples game at the end of the year, thinking, wow, Staples might have a chance to go into, come out of Thanksgiving as the only undefeated team in the conference. It was a rude awakening traveling up to NFA, though, on Saturday.
It certainly was. I mean, that NFA team came into the game 1-2, having really had blowout losses to Darien and Xavier. We had, we were saying on the show that perhaps NFA had bitten off a bit more than they could handle, scheduling some of these FCAC and SCC teams, and then it wasn't. In the way the game unfolded, it wasn't like a fluke or a late score. NFA was essentially handled Staples throughout the game.
It was a very back-and-forth start you had. NFA scoring on an early 2-yard touchdown. Records respond with a big pass from Danny Thompson to Julian Ross. Then, literally, on the next play of scrimmage, Sean McCanaway hits Juwan Johnson for a 90-yard catch and run. Then on the next play after that, you've got another touchdown. In a span of 46 seconds, it was 21 points put up on the board.
Like watching a tennis match, basically, back and forth.
It was back and forth early. The game gets tied in the second quarter, and after that, Juwan Johnson takes over. Again, finishes with 277 yards, 3 touchdowns. We're so used to these Staples running backs running free against all these FCAC teams and racking up the big numbers. But the Staples defense just looked as though they never got off the bus on Saturday.
Right, and certainly Staples was dealing with some injuries to some of the skill position players, but yeah, the main problem was they were dominated on the defensive line by NFA. NFA had lost 36-0 to Xavier and 45-6 to Darien, and just scanning down the schedule, NFA is now 2-2. They could run the table. They've got one more game against FCAC competition. That would be against Stamford on the 12th. They also have their Thanksgiving game against New London. So a couple of tough games, but it's actually there for them to set up if they can do it. And then the big question now remains is, did Staples overlook NFA? Is Staples maybe not quite where we thought they were at this point?
And Staples now goes to Boyle Stadium Friday night. They've got a 3-1 Stamford team that's very much still in the mix. They've got to lick their wounds. They're the only team that's coming in on a short week now, essentially, with the bye week for everyone else. That's an interesting game to keep an eye on. It's I'm going to call it Separation Saturday in the FCAC because we've got some very important matchups that are going to have big implications on the state playoffs at the end of the year. Let's start with Ridgefield and Trinity Catholic. Ridgefield is sitting there. They're 3-1. You've got Trinity Catholic, who might be the best 1-3 team in the state of Connecticut.
Certainly, at 1-3, the Trinity has played a very tough schedule to open the season. They're also a Class S school playing against Class L schools, so they're going to be at a disadvantage every week. They know that, but they're good enough to knock off some of these teams. So that certainly, we've talked about the 3-1 teams trying to kind of get a leg up on the others. Trinity, not a 3-1 team, but certainly going to be heard from before the end of the season.
Well, without a doubt, I agree with that one. Now you take a look, you've got Wilton and St. Joe's both sitting at 3-1. I would say this is one of the more surprising games. I think people expected St. Joe's to be in this position, possibly even 4-0 if they'd found a way to strike, find lightning in a bottle week 1 against Darien. Wilton is a good surprise, though. They're coming in and they're very hot. They run the ball. You've got ground and pound versus air it out. Which way are you leaning early on in this one?
I'm probably, if I had to lean one direction or the other, I would probably lean a little bit towards St. Joe's. It's just kind of philosophical. I prefer quick strikes versus grinding out a team, because in my opinion, in my thought, the more plays it takes you to score, the more chances the other team has to stop you. On the other hand, big plays sometimes go both ways.
And then we're going to have a Greenwich and Trumbull. That's Saturday. It's homecoming for the Cardinals. Greenwich lost last year to Trumbull. Might have gotten caught looking ahead towards New Canaan, Johnny Marinelli's first year. I was talking with a coach in the FCAC over the weekend, and they think that Trumbull right now might be the best team in the conference. We talked off the air today. If you take out one terrible half of football, this is a 4-0 Trumbull team that would be making a lot of noise in the state.
You know, and it's not even one terrible half of football. It's really like a handful of plays of football because Trumbull had a couple of opportunities to really put that game away, and then the wheels just kind of came off as we went into the fourth quarter. And certainly on the other side, Greenwich needs this game. They've already lost. They've lost to Darien. They're coming in at 3-1. After Trumbull, they have New Canaan, and then they still have Ridgefield and Staples on their schedule. Greenwich absolutely needs this game.
And we think that even at 2 losses, there will most likely be 2 or 3 teams in the conference that finish with 2 losses. 2 of those teams are probably not making it to states. There's no FCIAC championship, so every game just so critical right now to all these FCIAC teams.
No, that's absolutely true. You know, the advantage when you have a conference like the FCIAC, you have all of these schools that play football in Class LL at the at the highest level of competition in the state. The downside of that is that they're competing against each other for these 8 playoff spots, and there just aren't enough spots to go around.
Don, let's take one more break here on Nutmeg Sports. When we get back, we'll take a look at the standings from all the other sports in the conference. As we get set for the postseason, we've got the cross-country championships coming up next Wednesday. That'll all be right here on the HAN Network.
This is now 44 years I've been in this business. Digital came along. After I was in business for about 6 years, I had to totally reinvent the business. So I had to make a tremendous investment in my business. And Milford Bank was there for me. I don't really just consider Milford Bank a bank. I consider them a trusted partner in my business. My name is Jim Wilson, owner of Milford Photo. I choose to bank with Milford Bank.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. InSports College Baseball Coaches Camp takes place at InSports on October 23rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This unique limited space event features many of the area's top college baseball coaches who will work with high school players in a hands-on clinic setting as well as evaluate their infield skills. For more information, contact Mike Buswell at InSports, 203-268-1214. Like and follow us on Facebook.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan, and you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter, and I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN Network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier Network. And we've also reached 1.7 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. It is Tuesday, October 11th. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in the studio today. Don, we've broken down the football. Let's shift gears here now. We're going to take a look at the standings for the other sports in the conference. Let's start with boys cross country. We haven't had much cross country up to date, but we've got the championships coming up next week in New Canaan. We'll be live on scene. If we look at the boys standings, only one team in the conference right now undefeated. You have got Staples, at 13-0. Not far behind is Danbury at 11-1. Trumbull at 10-2. Those are the top 3 schools in the West Division. In the East Division, Fairfield Ward comes in with a record of 11-2. Darien at 9-3. And Fairfield Ludlow rounding out that third spot at 8 and 4. Those are your top three for the West and East Division in boys cross country. Let's go to Don for the girls.
On the girls' side, in the Western Division, you have Ridgefield at 13 and 0, leading the standings. Greenwich 10 and 2, Danbury and Trumbull just about a game and a half behind there at 9 and 3. On the East side, it is Wilton and New Canaan, the top two teams. Wilton 11 and 1, New Canaan 10 and 2. Then you have Ward there at 8 and 5, and then a whole bunch of teams kind of grouped into that mid pack.
It's been a very competitive cross-country season up to date. We haven't had as much of the race coverage as we would have liked, but we've been tracking times. We've seen those top teams have separated themselves, but the middle of the pack has been so competitive.
Sure, and it's easy to forget because you have the top teams that are playing for for conference supremacy, but when those other schools down the standings a little bit, they want to finish the season on top of the other team too. Even if you're like the third to last team, you want to finish ahead of the second to last team.
And we've seen from those fall sports tour interviews how excited everyone will be for FCX. So we expect it to be a very crowded front of the pack. Let's take a look now at the field hockey standings here. In the West Division, Staples undefeated at 9-0-1. They've got 19 points. Trumbull not far behind, 7 and 2. Greenwich 5 and 5. Ridgefield 3 and 8. Those are your the top of the West Division there. If you look at the East, though, it is crowded at the top. 9 and 1 is Darien. They're only lost to 8-0-1 Wilton. Norwalk at 8-2-0-1 with 17 points. They're tied for second right now. New Canaan and Ludlow both with 12 points. Ward has 11. The East is scary tight, Don, for the field hockey standings.
Yeah, and each game just becomes so crucial as you come down the stretch. We move over to boys soccer now on the West in the Western Division. Danbury with a record of 9-1-2, good for 29 points. They lead the West ahead of Greenwich, who is actually undefeated. Greenwich 8-0-2, but with 26 points on the basis of number of games played. Trumbull also undefeated, 7-0-4, third place in the Western Division. In the Eastern Division, it is Ludlow at 7-4, leading the way with 21 points. Darien and Ward 6-4-1, identical records there, both good for 19 points. So it looks, at least on paper anyway, that on the boys soccer side, looks like more of those FCX teams will be coming out of that Western Division. Still a ways to go, though.
Top 8 teams will qualify for the playoffs, and you've got 6 teams in the Western Division with at least 18 points. Only 3 teams in the East have that many. Right. So Norwalk 4-5-2 right now. They're 4th in the East, but could be falling out to the 6th team in the West.
They really could. I mean, if you look at Ludlow with 21 points, there are 4 teams in the West with more points than that, and then a 5th team, Stanford, has 21. So it looks, at least this year, like that strength could be coming out of the Western Division.
Let's look at the girls' swimming standings now. In the West Division, Ridgefield 5-0 on the year. Greenwich 4-0, both teams swimming beautifully up to this point. Norwalk and McMahon and Staples are both tied with records of 2-1, sitting in third place. In the East Division, Darien comes in undefeated. They are 4-0 to date. New Canaan and Wilton both at 3-1. As the swimming season starts to wind down, we'll have a full swimming breakdown tomorrow on Nutmeg Sports, actually, when Dave Stewart joins me. That'll be here on the HAN Network. Don, swimming is going to be a lot of fun when we get to the end. The FCX championships, the state opens and the states, always so competitive, and so many of the FCX schools having success at both levels.
It's a lot of fun, and what can you say about attending these high-level swim meets? Bring your earplugs. We go to girls volleyball now. Greenwich at 8-0 in the FCX, 10-0 overall, leads the Western Division. Ridgefield 7-1, Stamford 7-2. Both of those schools about a game back. On the East Division, it is 7-1 McMahon, who's 9-1 overall. McMahon on top of the Eastern Division. St. Joseph 7-2, and Darien and Ward at 5-4 for the girls volleyball standings.
A couple of surprises in girls volleyball, and I want to get your opinion, Don. Is it a bigger surprise McMahon being 9-1 to date, and we will have McMahon Thursday afternoon against Staples? We're very excited to see the Senators. Or is Darien 5-4 a bigger surprise?
I think Darien being 5-4 is a bigger surprise because McMahon always has athletes. The question is always can they get it together? And this year they really have 9-1. They've certainly succeeded more so than I thought. But to me it is more surprising. Darien just a game over 500, 5-4 in the conference, 6-5 overall, and just kind of struggling through the year. They've still got time to get it together, but certainly this start has been the bigger surprise to me.
And let's finally take a look at girls soccer now. In the West Division, Ridgefield just trailing St. Joe's by a point, virtue of a tiebreaker at this moment in time. They've played one less game. They're 9-0, 27 points on the year. West Hill, 8-0-2, 26 points. Staples, 7-2-1 with 22. In the East Division, St. Joe's is 9-0-1 with 28. Wilton, 7-2-1 with 22. Darien and Ward with 21 and 20 points, respectively. Don, we have got girls soccer this afternoon on the HAN Network, live at 4 o'clock from St. Joe's. It's the West Hill Vikings and the St. Joe's Cadets. You've got two of the top three teams in the conference. We've had this one marked on our calendar for quite some time now. First thoughts on this game, what it goes through your head? Well, a couple of undefeated teams, and it's a chance to really make a statement as we head as we head into that last third of the season and into the FCAC playoffs. The undefeated teams, West Hill 8-0-2, St. Joe's 9-0-1. So both teams have played 10 games. St. Joe's with just a couple of more points. And what you're really doing is one team can really put themselves in an advantageous position for a better seed going into the FCAC tournament. And a bit of clashing styles there, too. St. Joe's can play a more patient game. They've got the ability to strike up front. West Hill is going to be very aggressive, though, we expect, which will be fun to see because so many teams, when they face a team like St. Joe's, is very passive and trying to be as conservative as possible to take that one chance at a counterattack, maybe win a 1-0 game. Right, and that almost plays into St. Joe's hands. When you have a team like that where you're concerned about the counterattack, you almost don't then want to attack, and that certainly we don't expect that to be the case with West Hill today. That game will be at 4 o'clock here on the HAN Network. Kevin Coleman will join me for the call. Don, you're off tomorrow, but I'll see you again on Thursday. Thanks for today. Make sure you check out girls soccer this afternoon, and of course, Coffee Break at 11 a.m. with Kate Chaplensky, and CT Pulse with Kate and Josh Fisher at 12:30 tomorrow here on the HAN Network.